Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Sam Allardyce has been speaking out 24 hours after being forced to step down as England manager. He said entrapment had won after a secret recording by a newspaper appeared to show him discussing how to get around rules on transfers. He says he made an error of judgment. Our sports editor Dan Rowan's report contains flash photography.
Many said Sam Allardyce came with baggage when he was appointed England manager. And today, bags packed, he left home humiliated for a holiday he hadn't been planning, stopping to talk for the first time about the undercover newspaper sting that cost him his dream job.
On reflection, it was a silly thing to do, but just to let everybody know, I sort of helped out what was somebody I'd known for 30 years, and unfortunately it was an error in judgment on my behalf, and I paid the consequences. But you know, entrapment has won on this occasion, and I have to accept that.
I would have thought £100,000 a time.
Allardyce became England's shortest-serving ever manager after the Daily Telegraph secretly filmed him securing an in-principle £400,000 deal with journalists who were posing as businessmen. The FA took a dim view of his words about avoiding transfer regulations and his disparaging remarks about predecessor Roy Hodgson. With their credibility as the moral guardians of the game on the line, Allardyce's bosses deemed his £3 million a year position untenable.
English football is a bit of a laughing stock, I'm sure, around the world. It's very, very embarrassing for all concerned. Not a nice situation to be in. Got to move on, got to get results in the next 3 or 4 games.
The barely believable events of the last 48 hours have left the FA reeling here at Wembley. Allardyce's departure raising serious questions over their judgment in appointing him, but also their ability to govern a globalised game that's changing beyond recognition, with unprecedented amounts of money and greed, disparate ownership and ever more powerful clubs and agents. The Daily Telegraph has today alleged that 8 current or former Premier League managers have received bungs for player transfers. Their latest film shows an agent saying he knew an ex-manager that had more backhanders than Wimbledon. Even the body that represents agents has now admitted the system is broken. One former FA chairman had this to say.
If you looked at the sort of figures that are going out to agents, they are gigantic now. And at some stage, someone has to say, hang on, this is all money going out of football. There's nothing to do with football.
With the threat of more damaging headlines to come, today the government expressed its concern, demanding a full investigation, a warning to the FA that this is now about confidence in the way the game is run, and not just one manager's spectacular fall from grace. Dan Rowan, BBC News, Wembley.
Now here, Sam Allardyce has spoken to reporters for the first time since a newspaper sting cost him his job and claimed entrapment has won. The England manager had been filmed apparently trying to broker a $400,000 deal and telling undercover reporters posing as businessmen how to evade strict rules on third-party ownership. And a warning, there's flash photography from the very start of this report from our sports correspondent, Kamin Zeram.
Sam Allardyce made over £500,000 over the 2 months he was England boss. He was due to receive a total of £3 million a year for what's essentially a part-time job. So why on earth was his head apparently turned with the offer of dodgy consultancy work on the side? The tawdry greed of modern football. Although Big Sam, as he's known, this morning blamed the press.
On reflection, it was a silly thing to do, but just to let everybody know, I sort of helped out what was somebody I'd known for 30 years, and unfortunately it was an error in judgment on my behalf, and I paid the consequences. But you know, entrapment has won on this occasion, and I have to accept that.
Allardyce isn't the only figure accused of being willing to work around the rules, according to the investigation that cost him his job. 8 current and former Premier League managers have reportedly received bungs for player transfers, although none have yet been named. The former England captain, Gary Lineker, today calling for a proper police investigation to clean up the game. The conduct of football's movers and shakers appears almost comic. An agent with form for match fixing secretly filmed, explaining how one manager would refer to backhanders as coffee.
For example, we do a transfer to as like that. I said, yeah, I want that back. Is there a little coffee for me, Pino?
A little coffee?
Yeah, that's what we'll say.
Football has an image problem. Today, the Premier League unveiling new funding for disability sport. The money swilling round the English game is immense, precisely why it's so lucrative for the hucksters.
That income has to be governed, and it has to be governed properly. And we have very strict rules in the game as to how that money is distributed, how that money is governed. And at the end of the day, there is no room for any malpractice.
Governance is one thing, culture change another. For it is still patently business as usual in some quarters to openly discuss the best way to circumvent the FA's own code of conduct. Just listen to what one ex-England manager had to say today about the undoing of Big Sam. Allardyce wasn't naive, he was stitched up.
And very, very sad for what's happened to Sam Allardyce. It could happen to any of us in high-profile sports positions, and you know, Sam innocently has paid the price.
Could happen to any of us. Could it really? What is wrong with football? As Sam Allardyce leaves his dream job in disgrace, but consider this, with a rumoured £1 million payoff.